As coaches, we spend a lot of time telling investors what they should be doing. But today we're going to talk about things that you should never do as a real estate investor. That's what we're talking about today on the Sub2Deals Show. Welcome to the Sub2Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Occasionally, we'll talk about other real estate investing topics, asset protection, taxes, landlording, all those other things. But it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. Now, if you're listening to our podcast today, we'd like to ask you to visit us on our YouTube channel at sub2tv.com. You can listen to our podcast. You can look at our smiling faces and just watch some of the videos. We release new videos almost every single day there on some real estate investing topic. It's absolutely free, and I think you'll learn a little bit over there. And if you'd like to learn more about creative finance and Sub2, visit us at sub2university.com. We've got coaching, courses, training, all affordable real estate education at sub2university.com. So today's topic is what you shouldn't do as a real estate investor. And I can tell you after 23 years, there are a lot of things you shouldn't do, but we'll talk about what in my opinion are the big three today. And we'll start with the biggest one, in my opinion. We'll just get that one out of the way. And that is, if you're like me and you deal with a lot of people in distress, and we're talking about people under pressure, people that have timelines, drop dead dates, whatever you want to call it, people in foreclosure, people that are losing their home, people that are getting a divorce, whatever their situation is where they can't make their mortgage payment, and they want to stay. And okay, let's just talk about foreclosures today, because for years and years, the majority of my business has been dealing with people in foreclosure. They're at the top of the list as far as people that are in trouble. People, it's easily accessible to find out about them with your court records or tools like PropStream and other data sources. You know they're behind on their payments. They've got a date when the bank is actually going to take their house. So you approach them about, for most investors, they just make an approach with buying the house. We do things a little bit differently. We do approach people telling them that, we can try to help them save their home, but that's helping them keep their house, us not buying it, and them being able to stay, because probably 80% of the people in foreclosure claim at least that they want to keep their house. So what we'll do is point them to some resources that can help them out. Sometimes there are state funds that can give homeowners a loan. In some cases, it can even be a grant or a gift that can help them keep their house. Also, most times people in foreclosure aren't talking to any of their debt collectors. So they just want to answer the phone. They won't have conversations. And lenders are very open to trying to work with you if your circumstances if it's worth it to the lender. Basically, what that means is maybe you got behind on your bills because you lost your job or something happened. That situation's been corrected now. And if they will, give you some grace, give you a forbearance or a loan modification, you can keep your payments up. Now, if that seems to be the case, most times they'll work with you on something like that, put what you owe on the back end of the loan, or totally remodify your loan and let your payments start all over again. Most people aren't aware of that. They were afraid to talk to the lender. We'll come in, we'll talk to the lender for them and get those types of things done. So most people want to stay. My business has always been, if we're buying the house, the people have to move. Preferably, we're dealing with people that have already moved, but even if they're still in the house, they're going to have to get out before we make up any back payments, before we write that seller any type of check. And that's just how we do business. And we do that for a lot of reasons. The main one being For years, if I didn't know something, if I hadn't been in the business long enough to know this, I would consult people that had been doing it a lot longer than me. And almost without fail, their advice is if you're buying a house in foreclosure, the people in it have to move. And you have to imagine this scenario. Let's pretend for a minute that I go see Tom and Sally. They're in foreclosure. It's, they've raised their kids in this house. Their kids are teenagers now. They've got a lot of memories there. They don't want to leave, but they still couldn't make payments, even if the bank fixed it for them and put the payments, set the payments up anew, put the arrears on the back end. They still wouldn't be able to do it. And you gently explain to Tom and Sally why this kind of modification wouldn't work for them. Make them realize that they're probably not going to be able to keep the house. But they say, oh, well, if you could just help us, if you could just make up the back payments, we would rent it from you. We'd love to stay. And listen, Jody and I sat in the living room of a lady a couple of weeks ago who had a very convincing story. She hadn't made payments on that house in a couple of years, and she was behind $25,000, I believe, and the bank wouldn't work with her because she didn't have a consistent income right now. But she really, really wanted to stay. She had lived there for 20 years, and I understood that, and she was very convincing, and we really felt for her. But chances are, if we had bought that house from her, allowed her to stay, and then she couldn't pay us at somewhere down the road, she wouldn't really understand why we were making her leave her home. People in trouble, when you fix things for them, they have instant gratification, just gratitude towards you, and thankfulness that you're in their life. But somehow over time, that changes. And they feel taken advantage of somewhere down the road. And if they're still in the house, you're going to have to deal with that when the gratitude is gone and the you took advantage of me sets in. And you don't want to be in that position, because I'll tell you, if I paid the 25,000 and bought that house in the scenario I was talking about, and got a house for, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say that we bought that house for 160,000 and it was worth 300. We made over $100,000 profit on that house. Now we've got this poor lady that's still in the house. Now she's trying to rent it from us. She can't rent it. She can't afford the payments. And we go to her and say, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're not making your payments as agreed. You got to move. Well, she's going to be angry, chances are. She is going to feel like she got snookered out of her house. You had agreed to let her stay, and now you're making her leave, so she probably won't leave. You're going to have to file an eviction. You're going to have to see her in court in front of a judge who may or may not be very sympathetic toward you as the investor who just made a six-figure profit on this lady's, on her misfortune. And unfortunately, that's just the way things are. Now, you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to put yourself in that position. We had a student recently that made a post about meeting someone who successfully lets people stay in their homes as renters, and that most of the time it works out great for them. And my response was, well, I get it. A lot of things work out for people until they don't work out anymore. Judges today don't rule on law. They create law from the bench. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the state of the way the world works today. A lot of people are a victim. People don't accept personal responsibility for their situations. And you just don't want to find yourself in that position. Now, most of the stuff, that I teach is just based on my experience, what's happened to me, what's happened to other longtime investors that I know. But if you go out today and you ask 5 what I would call seasoned investors, experienced investors that have been in this game for more than 20 years, I would almost guarantee you all 5 of them would say, if you're buying a home in foreclosure, you just don't let the homeowner stay. It's a bad idea. It may work out for the occasional person, hey, and that's great. If this guy that's doing this, that my student was talking about, isn't taking advantage of people, I hope he's very successful with it and it works for a really long time. I don't want to have to base what I do on being lucky. I just don't. I want it to be based on sound business practices, and doing nothing that could even look like I was taking advantage of someone. So for that reason, I would say number one on my list is if you're buying a home from people in distress, they have to move. Don't let them stay, and don't let them be tenants for you. Now, you may disagree with that, and that's okay. I mean, you do what works for you. But again, I'm basing this on a lot of years of experience, and just the appearance of any impropriety. We don't want that to happen. So number two on the list of things that you don't want to do as a real estate investor is to put a lot of money in a house that you don't own. Again, this is something I have some personal experience with. When I got started as a real estate investor, I bought all the courses just like all the newbies do, and I tried this and that until I figured out what worked for me and what didn't work. And for a while, I did sandwich lease options. And we were buying relatively nice houses, but sometimes repairs have to be made and things have to be done. But you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're putting a lot of your own money into a house that you don't own, because you don't know how that's ultimately going to work out in the end. Now, I'll give you a case example. I did a sandwich lease option with a lady that couldn't sell her house on the MLS, and she couldn't really afford to make the payment. She was already living with her mother. The house was vacant, and so we made an arrangement where I would lease it with an option to purchase, and of course I would sublease it. And our agreement was that any repair that was under $100 I would make, but if it was over that, she would be responsible. Well, we got in the house, and the first thing we found out in the middle of the winter was the furnace didn't work. So I called her up and I said, "Hey," I said, "we're going to have to make, a $2,300 repair to this furnace." And she's like, "I don't have the money for that." And we'd already leased this house to somebody else. So I'm like, "Well, okay." I had their option deposit, and I said, "I'll go ahead and fix it. And then, you can just pay me when we actually buy the house." So we went ahead and did that. And then through the course of time that we had this house, there were a couple other repairs that had to be made. So by the time we were through with our option period, a few years later, we had made, $4,000 or $5,000 worth of repairs to this house. And of course, she could never afford to do any of it. So when she got into a new relationship and she wanted her house back at the end of our option period, and we'd been through a couple of tenants that hadn't exercised their option, so we agreed to give her her house back. And I said, "Well, here are the bills for the repairs that I had to make. Now I need for you to pay me." And her new boyfriend said, "Oh, we're not giving you anything." So at the time, when I did sandwich lease options, we would actually record a performance mortgage against them. And it was really what this performance mortgage was a mortgage, a second mortgage against the property that the seller signed in favor of us for anticipated profit. And so I just had to wait things out until a couple of years later, she decided to sell her house. And when they were getting the final title work done, the day or so before closing, the title company found that note and called me up. And I was fair with her. I just wanted her to pay me what she owed me. I wasn't expecting the full amount. I believe the full amount on that one was about $25,000 that I could have said, "No, she owes me this 25. I need to get paid." But I didn't do that. I just got the money that she owed me. So never put money into a house you don't own. If I hadn't had that recorded, then my chances of getting that money probably wouldn't have been very good. So you never want to do that. The last thing I want to talk about today is doing a lot of work on a house or marketing it to sell it or for a buyer or whatever it may be without a contract on that house. I have students all the time they'll post in the group or somewhere and they'll say, "Hey, I'm looking at this deal. It's worth this and I can get it for that. And what should I do?" And my first question is usually, "Well, do you have it under contract? It looks like a great deal." "Well, no, I want to check it out." And that's a big mistake that a lot of investors make. They will do all the due diligence in the world on a deal without a contract. And in the meantime, the seller's calling every other investor in town. They're getting 10,000 postcards and phone calls from hedge funds wanting to buy that house. And at any time during all this work you're doing, someone else could get this thing under contract and you would be powerless to do anything about it. So my advice to you is, if you have a conversation with a seller and it sounds like a good deal, get it under contract based on those numbers. Now, the contract is important. Remember, we trust sellers in the beginning. When they say they owe $100,000 on this $150,000 house and their payment's $700 a month, and we know that we can rent it for $1,200, we trust them, and we base our purchase on these being facts. Now, uncovering the true facts, that's what your due diligence period is for. But you can always renegotiate terms. So if you talk to a seller and it sounds like a good deal, get it under contract, get it under control. You can always go back later if you find out they owe more or there's second liens or judgments on the house. But don't do a lot of work on something without having the right to buy that house if everything checks out for yourself. Don't waste a lot of time doing that. We call it ready, fire, aim in the Sub2 Max group. So get it under contract, get it under control, and then go do your due diligence at your leisure. So that's how it works. Now, these are just three things, some of the biggest things that I see investors do wrong, and we don't want to see you doing any of that stuff. So learn to do these things properly and be a successful investor. So hope that helps. That's it for this episode of the Sub2Deals Show. We appreciate you being here today. I want to remind you to check us out at our YouTube channel, sub2tv.com. So until the next show, get out there, talk to some sellers, buy some houses.